All America, all the time. Sit down, buckle up, and get ready for The Dan Bongino Show.
Folks, listen, man, I can only turn in the man card on getting emotional on these things so many times in a week. I may have already turned it in, so who knows? But it's another great day for President Trump, his administration, the DOJ, and this FBI. For those of you watching the show right now, we are obviously live. My watch, well, like anybody can set a time and a watch, but you get the point. I think it's fairly obvious. I've got Fox News on in the background. Judge Jeanine Pirro is speaking now after Cash and AG Bondi. And finally, some justice for the victims of Benghazi. Thank you, guys. Fox News headline: Department of Justice announces alleged leader of the Benghazi attacks arrested. Now, this is the United States system of justice and the most amazing constitutional republic on planet Earth. And I mean it when I say it, everyone is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. That's a fact. However, folks, now do you see why I'm so passionate about defending this administration? Yeah, accountability matters. You're damn right. But you can't have accountability without facts. And the facts are that a whole bunch of people who, again, continue to shit all over this administration. Oh, you guys haven't done anything on Benghazi, anything on the deep state. There's already been indictments and items going on there that are still ongoing. We have to sit back and read this every day as we knew all this stuff was going on. I'm not telling you this is the end of everything. You should stop demanding account. I'm not telling you any of that. If you think I'm telling you that, this isn't the show for you. I am not saying that at all. I'm stating one fairly obvious thing as they continue to rack up W's under the leadership of this president. Just because something hasn't happened yet does not mean it's not happening. Do you know how many posts and other things I read during our time there? People say, man, Benghazi, 0 arrests. Meanwhile, Cash, me, Pam, and the judge, we're working on this case. We can't go out and tell you we're working on it. You don't think there are other things happening right now? I am not telling you. You demand the best. Demand the finest. The government works for you. I worked for you. Cash works for you. Pam works for you. Jeanine, the president. But I said to you on social media and elsewhere, just because you don't see something happening doesn't mean it isn't happening. Thank you to the FBI team that did the FTOC, the foreign transfer of custody. As Cash and the Attorney General and the judge indicated, we've been working on this case for a really long time, folks. We started working on this case with the AG, I think a week after Cash swore in and I got in a couple weeks later. We've been working on it forever. It's not the end. There's a ton more to do. No question about it. A ton more to do. Breaking up this deep state political corruption network that's still going on. This is another notch, another W for the administration, but it's not the end. I've never, ever asked for anything other than a sense of honesty and candor in this debate. If at the end of the 4 years, after what we've set up and what we've built, you don't have a litany of items you are happy with for accountability, then throw us all in the garbage. But just because you don't see something happening right away, folks, I promise you, does not mean it's not happening. This has been going on forever. I'm telling you, I read so many, I can't believe Benghazi, still no accountability on that. Meanwhile, you're sitting there in a meeting about the suspect here, Bakush, in the Benghazi case. You're like, all right, okay. Never forget, man. Never forget. Amazing job. And I do want to thank the AG for staying on top of this. Judge Jeanine was an absolute bulldog on this case. And I'm going to tell you something about Cash. Cash had worked in the DOD, now Department of War. Cash was an high-level official in the DOD. Cash had a personal interest in this case. Cash had an interest in a lot of cases as the FBI director. He's the FBI director. I'm telling you, he had an interest in this case specifically because he had followed it and knew the really, really close details of it from the start. He never let this thing go. So great day for the guys over there at the Bureau and to the squads that never let this go, the CT squads and elsewhere. It's been a long time, been over a decade. Good job. All right, got a lot to talk about today. I know it was a long intro. You guys kind of threw the show cadence off, but the breaking news happened right now. So I wanted to make sure we let them talk a little bit before we broke live. I didn't want to interrupt the press conference. So nice job. And at the Trump administration, guys, it's another FO. They're finding out. People around the world, they're finding out that this president is not dicking around. And he's got people in there who aren't dicking around either. I mean, get this. And then, folks, the Antifa threat. There's no such thing as Antifa, right? I thought it was an idea. It was an idea, like in a fable, like in a book, like in a kid's story, like in a Charlie Brown encyclopedia. It's just an idea. It's an idea like unicorns, like Bigfoot. Although, who knows? I'm up in the air on Bigfoot. No, Antifa's very real. Antifa's very real. They show up in ninja suits and everything like that. So the arrest of a suspect in a case wearing a shirt, I'm Antifa. I thought there was no Antifa. I'm going to get into that. And again, I'm going to show you some numbers and stats on what's been happening with Antifa for the doomer class that'll insist that didn't happen either. Nothing ever happens with them until you show them it happens, and then they move on to something else they say never happened. By the way, is this shirt today Nicole Wallace approved? I think this one definitely is. Guy, Justin? Yes, that is a 7. That's a 7, man. What do I got to do for a 10? My gosh, come in here in some like Chippendales outfit or something. That'd be kind of weird. No one wants to see that. Wow, look at that. Got a little bit. I need a smoking jacket for this. Anyone got a cigar? Anyone? You guys are good. I did not ask these guys to do that. Very good. I like that. Oh, you do got to say. They even brought a cigar for me. Check it out. There you are, Nicole. This one's for you, sweetheart. I love you guys. You guys are good, man. I appreciate that. It's a Cohibo, not a Cohiba. It's also plastic, which was kind of gross. But folks, listen, I saw a lot over the past year. Found some stuff particularly disturbing. All this infighting going on. Listen. We all agree we have central ideas we got to focus on moving forward. Freedom of speech, the right to life, the Second Amendment, and supporting our military and first responders. We got to focus on these things. We got midterms coming up. Attacking each other, just not going to get it done. There's one company that's been fighting for our rights, and they've supported this program from the very beginning. That's Patriot Mobile. Patriot Mobile. We love Patriot Mobile. Unlike other mobile providers, Patriot Mobile works on all 3 major networks. In fact, you can be on multiple networks on the same phone. More importantly, their customers enjoy priority service with the same or better quality as their old providers. Patriot Mobile's 100% U.S.-based customer service team makes switching fast and easy. Keep your number, keep your phone, or upgrade. Go to patriotmobile.com/Dan and get a free month of service with the offer code Dan. Company's been fighting for the things we all believe for over a decade. Thank Patriot Mobile by switching over to them today. It's a patriotic company. They love America, and we love them. patriotmobile.com/Dan. That's patriotmobile.com/Dan. What a bell today on a Friday. What a way to rack up the week. Guys, thank you. The comeback has been amazing. Far surpassed my expectation. Over 7 million views on Rumble. Still today, #1 trending on Spotify as a podcast. The biggest live stream in the world during our hour, during the afternoon, and during the whole day on Monday. We so much appreciate it. You have far surpassed my expectations. And again, I just want to thank the AG, Trey Gowdy's on Fox now talking about it. He had some role in the Benghazi committee back then. But the AG, Judge Janine for being an absolute bulldog, and Cash for never, ever letting this case go. Sat in a lot of meetings on this. Benghazi guys, man, no one was ever going to forget that. I promise you. So, folks, the Antifa threat, which, of course, we've been told over and over by leftist Democrats, the prior leadership at the FBI under Christopher Frey, Antifa, it's an idea. It's a lot of things are ideas. The Incredible Hulk's an idea too. There's a lot of ideas out there. However, when people show up in a bunch of uniforms screaming their Antifa, under Antifa social media handles, talking about Antifa, wearing a centralized Antifa ninja-like uniform, using the same Antifa tactics in an Antifa handbook, we could call them freaking Antifa. Only a moron wouldn't. Now, you may be saying, because we demand accountability, and we should, and we should, and we should, and we should continue. The government works for us, period. End of story. Me too. I'm a citizen too. I didn't give up my citizenship when I went into government. Another arrest yesterday. Hat tip Todd Blanche for putting this out. The Deputy Attorney General, the DOJ. This was, I believe, an ICE arrest. This was not an FBI arrest. Doesn't matter. It's still our government, and we really appreciate it. Bill Malugin put out this tweet. Bill Malugin's an excellent reporter over at Fox. Photo of an arrest from a... This is not Photoshopped. Guy, is this Photoshopped? No, sir, it is not. Josh is giving me the no. This is a photo. Hat tip his law enforcement sources. Hat tip Bill Malugin. This is an HSI raid there. Guy's got a shirt on for those of you listening on Spotify and Apple. Thank you, Guy. It says, literally, I'm Antifa. I mean, literally. I hate the word literally. But in this case, it is literal. The shirt says, it's a hoodie, a black hoodie. I'm Antifa. Exclamation point. Well, guy's got a bunch of face tattoos. Again, everyone's innocent till proven guilty. This is a republic. However, that's a fascinating picture considering we've been told nothing's happening on Antifa. There's no arrests on Antifa, and Antifa doesn't exist by the prior administrations. Again, the Doomers and the Libs have the same story. Nothing's happening. Nothing exists, whatever. They all have the same story. There's been no Antifa arrests? That's interesting because when I was there, we arrested a whole bunch of Antifa folks after the LA riots. And we arrested, I think we're up to 20 right now in the Antifa attack in Prairieland, Texas. Do you remember that one? That was a tragedy. The shooting out there. Well, here's the press release. This is the kind of stuff, again, that in this asymmetric warfare game I was talking about yesterday. And I always want you to keep these two words in mind. If you missed yesterday's show, please watch it. Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary, does this fascinating video segment I cut in the beginning of the show about learning how to distinguish between signal and noise. Noise clouds signal. Signal is that hard direction on where you need to go and what you need to get done for that day. Signal is the message that matters, the facts, the data we need to input to produce high-quality outputs. If the inputs are wrong, the output's always going to be wrong. If the inputs are, hey, that never happened, nothing happened, I missed it, your output's going to be nothing happened. Fair enough. However, the inputs are all wrong. Here's the DOJ press release. This is not, by the way, again, this is more evidence of things people are telling you are not happening that not only have happened, but continue to happen. I want to give you a little inside baseball on this. It's the Prairieland case. This is from November of 2025. And these weren't the first Antifa arrests we had made either when I was over at the Bureau. I'm going to give you a little inside color on this within the bounds of what I can and can't do. Obviously, it was paid by the taxpayer, not paid to go out there and, relinquish my hold on the nation's secrets. That's not what I'm going to do. But there are things I can speak about. Folks, when I initially got in there with the Bureau, one of the first things Cash and I did is we looked at their threat banding system and how they analyzed the domestic counterterrorism operation. The domestic terror threat picture is probably a better way to say it. One of the things we were stunned to find out, Cash and I at the time, and Andrew as well, is that Antifa did not have a good, solid, strong threat banding. I couldn't believe it. So what did we do? We changed it. Again, that's probably something you're not going to read about anywhere. I'm just telling you it because it's a fact. Because it is a very severe threat, a threat at home. You've seen it. You don't have to speculate on what... That was my plastic cigar. Now I can't use it anymore. You guys are going to have to put it under soapbox UV light or something. Getting back to my point. You have to prioritize your threats. We were stunned at some of the stuff they had in this threat banding that just seemed like political bullshit. Folks, it just did. If I showed you the euphemisms, if I could show you these law enforcement sensitive documents, which I can't go into them in detail, but some of them it was all like mumbo jumbo PC crap. And we would ask some of these folks hey, how did this stuff get in there? And we changed it. This is a real threat, and it's being investigated as such, and the arrests are ongoing. Is it enough? No. Is it the end? Not even close. Is it happening? Yes. Do people want you to believe nothing's happening? Yes. Are they wrong? I just showed you they're wrong. Receipts matter. Just like they were wrong about nothing happening on Benghazi. And just like they're going to be wrong about everything else when this is all over. I'll accept your apologies in the apology box. I promise you, it's happening. You don't have to believe it. You think this president would accept a bunch of people sitting around on their ass doing nothing? The hell you think they went in there for? Tea and crumpets? Now, when we got in there, we were dealing with a lot of shit. A lot of PC stuff, a lot of so-called threats that seemed like PC euphemisms and not threats worthy of that particular type of banding. So we changed it. It took a while, but we got it done. Some resisted the changes, some did not. I told you, I felt like there were two FBIs in there. There was one that actually wanted to go get bad guys, terrorists, and scumbags, and there was one that was fully into the PC Ray Comey era, targeting political opponents. The problem was figuring out who belonged to what side. Nobody came out and volunteered, hey, I'm part of the weaponized group. We had to find them. They're still there, some of them. That may not make you happy, but I'm not here to bullshit you. You've got to find them, investigate, and take action. It's not as easy as it sounds. Not an excuse, just an explanation. But here's what we were dealing with. Here is the prior director who, listen, I don't want to make this personal. It's obviously Christopher Wray and I don't like each other. I saw him at a funeral for a former official in D.C. We didn't say anything, but, he didn't say anything, didn't give me any like side eye. Not that that matters. It's not personal. I actually, if I could, can I just take a brief, just quickly, I promise. You'll never believe who I ran into on the way out. I ran into Merrick Garland on the way out, get into the car. And like I said, I never approved of his job performance. I think that's fairly obvious. But he came up, shook my hand, said, thanks for serving. And that was it. And we moved on. But it was weird running into all these people who, as a prior opinion commentator, you're now seeing in person. And you're kind of wondering how the whole thing's going to go. I was actually expecting him to come up and try to like backhand or something like that. But he didn't. So whatever, that happened. But this is what we were dealing with from the prior FBI leadership, which I'm just going to tell you, professionally speaking, did an absolutely horrendous job. Here he is talking about Antifa up on Capitol Hill, the former FBI director, Christopher Wray. This is the mess we had to clean up. It's just an ideology. What the are you talking about, man? Check this out.
We look at Antifa as more of an ideology or a movement than an organization. To be clear, we do have quite a number of properly predicated domestic terrorism investigations into violent anarchist extremists, any number of whom self-identify with the Antifa movement. And that's part of this broader group of domestic violent extremists that I'm talking about. But it's just one part of it. We also have the racially motivated violent extremists, the militia types, and others.
Do you notice what he's doing there? Folks, you guys are a really, really savvy audience. I mean it. I read your comments. I get your emails. I see some of your tweets. Not all. There's a lot of them out there. But I try to read as many as I can. You'll see I like them. Sometimes that's me. Sometimes that's our staff. But I try to read through because I want to see what you guys think and how you guys feel. Most of you picked up on what he did there. At first, he wants you to believe, or he's at least pushing you in the direction that this is not some organized group. It's an idea that people just latch onto like moths to a flame. Notice he'll never say this about ISIS, AQAP, Al-Qaeda. He won't say that about them. But he says it about Antifa. Why? Because he was clearly, I think, in my opinion, now seeing what I've seen, he is clearly afraid of the left-wing at the time administration, Biden. And Biden's team at DOJ clearly wanted to protect these guys as these street soldiers for them. So they didn't want the country to fear what was an organized group, what's a very organized group, Antifa. So first he does two things there. He tries to detach you from the idea that this is a group, just that it's an idea like whatever, Zoroastrianism or something, and that people just follow it, but they're not connected to people. Okay, that's bullshit. That's not true. You're just making that up. And then second, in order to redirect, remember the framing we discussed on, what was it, the Tuesday show? How the media will take the same set of facts, but they'll minimize the facts that they don't want you to see, and they'll point to the other facts. In other words, like, hey, Bank of America was robbed last week, and Dan Bongino was in Bank of America. Both of those things can be true. But notice how they leave you off with me being in Bank of America with the implication that I robbed the bank, when the two things are totally disconnected. Just because I was in a bank that was robbed, that doesn't mean I robbed the bank. It's what's called overloading people with information and underwhelming them with facts. The left does this all the time, and so did Ray. Then he diverts attention to, hey, there's a lot of these violent militias, AKA a bunch of right-wingers. That's what he's saying. And a bunch of closet Ku Klux Klan members out there as well. The racial guy. That's what he's doing. He's trying to divert. And that's what we saw. A bunch of this politically correct, euphemistic bullshit instead of real threats. Hey, I don't care what your damn ideology is. If you're threatening to kill and murder innocent people using terror tactics in the United States, we were going to go find you. End of story. But we weren't going to make a political game out of it. Antifa is just an idea. Bullshit. The guy's got a freaking shirt on that says, I'm Antifa. With the 20 plus now Prairieland arrests in Texas, the arrests we made out of LA after the riots. What, did you miss all that? These lefties are so full of shit, man. It is unreal. Antifa is just an idea. But they're so confident that the right-wing militias are an organized group. They may be, they may not be. It's all bullshit, folks. The guys in charge now over there are not having any of this. And good job with that Antifa arrest. Again, all suspects are innocent until proven guilty. And I mean it. The freaking United States of America, man. It's a republic. Everybody's entitled to due process. And by the way, folks, it wasn't just Christopher Wray, the former FBI director. It was Joe Biden, too. I want you to watch this clip from the Biden-Trump debate. And I want this will put a big accent and a disgusting cherry on top of a sour cake of why Christopher Wray would not admit Antifa was an organized group. He was probably getting pressure from Biden because Biden's team was saying the same thing to protect these people. How do I know? Because he said the same thing. Receipts, receipts, receipts. The show does facts and receipts. Watch it yourself.
Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing.
FBI director
This is a left-wing problem.
White supremacists. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you got to be
not
kidding.
militia.
To all the liberal, critics, the 18-year-old J school majors and all the other folks out there, the show brings receipts. Why is Christopher Wray and Joe Biden, why are they both repeating the exact same tagline? The exact same bullshit tagline. Because they didn't want the American people to believe an organized group of left-wing motivated terrorists were terrorizing them, because they were useful to them in the streets, because the left has always had street soldiers. If you ever watch Dinesh D'Souza's show or you listen to Dinesh, he talks about this how the left has always used street thuggery and street force and use of violence in the streets to oppress people and to keep people down and keep people from speaking up. There's nothing new. It's not new to Biden or Obama or anyone else. That's why they were protecting them. It's no more complicated than that. If they put out there the truth that this was an organized group of people, the American people would be like, hey, we better go after them. RICO, terror charges, whatever, this is domestic terror, but there's all kinds of ways to prosecute people like this for federal crimes. Vicar, all kinds of things. They would have called for that, so they had to minimize it. Man, I miss doing this show. Man, I miss doing this show. By the way, I woke up to this morning to, it's always like 5 or 6 left-wing hit pieces that come out of me. I must make the money. I don't know. Like, it must be clickbait for them. Which is, I'm in the media business too. I support freedom of the press. You can write shitty articles about me. It's cool. Like, I don't like it, but it's part of the business and whatever. But I woke up to one this morning I was getting a little workout in, nothing heavy today. My legs are really a mess, so I was doing like some leg stuff, but my knee is so bad. Sorry, Guy, I got to speak up. My knee's so bad, I was doing just some light stuff now. I got to have a knee replacement, which is going to cost me a couple of days off towards the summer, folks. So I'll let you know in advance, but it's time. I can't walk around on my knee anymore. I just walk around with a massive limp now. So it's hard to walk. But I'm reading this article out of the New Yorker, and it was for left-wing stuff. It was actually surprisingly not unbiased, but not as biased as I was actually quite impressed. I forget the guy who wrote it, but it says Dan Bongino's return to podcast. It's the normal hit pieces in there. Man, he runs ads for survival food. Yeah, I don't want to die, and I actually use the stuff myself, and the show's supported by ads, but it's actually pretty fair. I was actually stunned. All right, I'm going to take a quick break, and then I want to get to this signal noise thing again. If we don't, as a movement, the MAGA movement, I'm not pinning this in with folks. Listen, I get caught up in this too sometimes where I've got to sit back and not be first, but be right. We have got to do better at filtering out the signal from the noise because it is tampering voter excitement about the election. It's not about accountability. I said that in the beginning of the show. Demand accountabilities. People work for us, Republicans, Democrats, all of them. But it is about a realistic assessment of where we are and where we're going. And we need facts and inputs to do that. We can't have skewed inputs. Skewed inputs are noise. Accurate inputs are signal. We're never going to make the right output decision if we don't have proper signal. And I'm going to show you what I mean with something Donald Trump said the other day that the left-wing media jumped on, fed to a bunch of folks who pretend to be Trump supporters, and they ran with it. Trump's backing down. He's chickening out on immigration. It's total, complete bullshit. It's not even what he said. I'll show you what I mean coming up next. Quick break. Folks, I lost a bunch of weight. If you go back and look at some of my old podcasts from back in the day on Rumble, you'll see I had a rounder kind of face. I was about 238, 235, 238. I didn't mind being that heavy because I liked being strong in the gym, but I'm 51. I'm really not that strong anymore. I'm not here pounding my chest like Tarzan. And my joints were getting beat up. So I said to Paula one day, I got to lose weight. So I didn't want to take any of those injection things because one, I don't like them and forget it. So I called up Miles. Miles like, hey, Miles at Brickhouse Nutrition. He's like, we got this product, Lean. That's what Lean was created to do. The weight loss injections work because they do two simple things, not hard. They help control your blood sugar and they shut down your appetite so you just eat less. There's no real mechanism to it. That's what these GLP, I think it stands for glucagon-like peptide. That's what Lean was created to do. It replicates the benefits of weight loss injections without the needles. Lean was formulated by doctors to support healthy blood sugar and help reduce the spikes and crashes that drive nonstop snacking and cravings. But Lean goes a step further. Lean helps your body turn fat into energy. So you burn it instead of storing it. No prescriptions, no needles. Paula, I'll tell you too, she's never been more ripped. I mean, her back, she looks like a fitness competitor. Visit brickhousenutrition.com/Dan. Use promo code Dan. Try out Lean, Lean, and get 20% off. You can also check out that Field of Greens. I love this. Take it twice a day. I always keep one on my desk here. Visit brickhousenutrition.com/Dan. Again, promo code Dan for 20% off. brickhousenutrition.com/Dan. Use promo code Dan. Their products are amazing. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. The product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease, and is not a substitute or alternative for care from a healthcare provider. Thanks, Brickhouse. We love all your products. And one of my personal favorites, so happy to have him back, All Family Pharma. Folks, I said in the beginning of the show, yes, the show's supported by advertisements. Advertisements I ideologically align with. I believe in preparedness. You want to call that foolish in the media? Fine. Don't come knocking on my door if there's an EMP attack or an industrial control system attack and you can't get pharmaceutical drugs and you've got an infection and your arm falls off. I'm sorry. Don't knock on my door. I got to take care of my family. I warned you to be prepared. Friends and family, I'll help you out. Other folks who don't want to be prepared, that's on you. You're going to need medication one day in an emergency. I recommend All Family Pharmacy. I've used them before. I use them now. I've been talking about them forever. I keep using them. They're not your typical pharmacy. Look at the winter storm we just had. Shipments were delayed. People were scrambling. If you ordered when the warnings hit, your medication would already be at home. That's what All Family Pharmacy allows you to do. Excuse me. They believe people should be able to plan ahead. You complete the form online. It's real simple. A licensed doctor reviews the form, provides the prescription and your medication, ships straight to your door. There's no waiting rooms, no insurance middlemen. There's just no nonsense. It's super easy. You need some NAD? If you don't, by the way, check out NAD. I love NAD. I use it every day. They offer antibiotics, antivirals, flu meds, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, mebendazole, methylene blue, and everyday maintenance medications people like me rely on. It's about access. It's about freedom. Choose the right pharmacy. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Bongino and use code Bongino10 to save 10% off your next order. It's not medical advice. Consult a licensed healthcare professional for taking any prescription medication. Folks, be prepared. Better to have it, not need it, than need it, not have it. I say this all the time. The best day of your life is the day you don't need this stuff and, you throw it out. The worst day of your life, you need it and it ain't there. So without constantly harping on this, because I don't want to make this show, I'm really like a positive guy. I always remember what Milton Friedman told Walter Williams, the economist, when you talk about liberty, talk about it with a smile. I love this country. I was honored to have served it multiple times. I've been in and out of so many jobs, and I live a nomadic lifestyle. I do things, I finish the mission, I come back, I do other things. I just like doing stuff. I've always done stuff, okay? I'm a happy guy. And I don't want the show to sound doomery either. But I'm really getting frustrated with a bunch of people attacking the president for every single thing he says without listening to what he actually said. This is a perfect example. The liberal media jumped all over this one to push this taco narrative. Trump always chickens out. Chickens out on what? You're totally full of shit. So he gives an interview the other day, and he's talking about Minnesota. And he's very clear about what he says. And of course, he's talking about being asked to come in. So the liberal media wants to push this narrative. Oh, Trump's pulling out of Minnesota, and he's not going in to enforce immigration anymore. He chickened out on Minnesota. That's not at all what he was talking about. Again, I lived it. He's clearly talking about Title X deployments of the National Guard if you actually know Trump's speaking style, and you're even interested in getting to the bottom of it. Here's the clip. I'm going to show you how some of the libs and then some of the anti-Trump folks on the right, the symbiote strikes again. They start attacking him. Oh, look, he definitely chickened out. Well, I'm going to give you the truth, and I got the receipts to back it up about why he said what he said and what he's doing. First, listen to the clip. Check this out.
It sounds like there is a shift in immigration enforcement here, that there's going to be a shift after Minneapolis. What should Americans expect going forward?
Well, one thing I say to my people, we do a good job, we don't get credit for it. I say they have to ask and they have to say please. When a city is going,
who has to ask and who has to say please?
The mayor or the governor. I don't want to go and force ourselves into a city, even if their numbers are terrible. Like, for instance, I got a call from Jeff Landry, governor of Louisiana. He said, we have a big problem. Could you go in and help us with well, let's see, certain sections. I mean, to be honest with you, certain sections of the state, beyond their famous, beautiful city, certain sections of the state. We have done, not only in New Orleans, we've done a really great job in Louisiana, but I was called. I want to be called. Chicago, we could solve the Chicago crime.
Well, on that question, which cities are you headed to next?
We have 5 cities that we're looking at very strongly, but we want to be invited. We will sometimes call the governors.
Folks, oh gosh, this is why, look, a clip's playing right now on Fox, a similar clip. This is why I'm here, and I'm happy to be back after serving in that first year for this amazing administration. I feel like I need to be the left-wing media translator again, because these narratives travel around the world in this asymmetric warfare game when they put out to you, Trump chickened out, he's leaving Minnesota. And then everybody, I said to my wife this morning, I was going through the show, I was chatting with her, and I was talking about this particular story, how once the lie rockets around the world, it's like concrete. Like if you pour concrete in the wrong spot and it's still wet, it's hard to get rid of, but not impossible. Once the concrete dries, you got to get a jackhammer out there. And that one mistake's now going to cost you days. This is what they're dealing with. The signal noise issue is going to be a real problem as information rockets around the globe in now record time. Folks, this is not what Trump was talking about. He wasn't talking about backing out until the governor talks him back. He was talking about National Guard deployments. Please stop bullshitting people on the left. Here's the background. You know what, Guy, put up the CBS News headline about the Supreme Court. CBS News, this is December of last year, 2025, so not that long ago. Supreme Court says Trump can't deploy National Guard to Chicago as legal challenge moves forward. Okay, Dan Bongino, doing the Bob Dole, is here to explain to you what's going on. So early on, during my tenure there, I had gone home for a weekend. It'd been my first time home in a while. And I was at an event with my wife, and I get a call. And I get a call from the assistant director in charge of the LA office. And he says, hey, listen, LA, it looks like we're going to have some civil disturbance in LA. Do you remember this, guys, ladies in the chat? Early on, the LA riots, most of you probably do. They did basically an ERO op, emergency removal op, an illegal immigration op. And the situation got out of control quick. Remember the rock thrower who thought he could get away and tried to flee, and we got him too? Remember that? I remember when they called me on that. Like, we got him. I was like, yes, innocent till proven guilty. However, it's always good to get your suspect, okay? So you remember the rock thrower? He had the bike helmet on. So they all thought they were going to get away. So there was a big civil disturbance in LA. Well, needless to say, thankfully, I have a suite of comms so I could handle things. But they do these White House Situation Room calls. I was on the phone all day. Matter of fact, probably from 11 a.m. to, 1 in the morning, on and off on the phone. So I didn't get to attend much of the event. Hey, that's your freaking job, man. I got to tell you, it was like, that's why I told you I'm going to miss the intensity of it, that being able to make decisions and do things like that. But we're on the phone and we're handling this thing. And Paul eventually fell asleep in a hotel room. But the governor at the time wasn't eager to have the National Guard in there. Obviously, it's California. So they used Title 10. I'm sorry for the long-winded explanation, but it's important you understand this stuff because this is where this show, the audience is always more informed and you'll never lose a debate. Title 10 doesn't require the governors asking to launch the National Guard. Under situations of rebellion or elsewhere, the president can nationalize the Guard, federalize the Guard, and take them and move them in there. So, folks, that's what happened in many of these cases. Unfortunately, that is now in legal limbo, as you saw in this CBS headline. Not the president's use of the National Guard overall, but that particular portion. Without the governor can always ask the National Guard to come in and the president can help. That part is not in question. Now do you get it? So any way we can play the beginning of that cut again? Now does it make sense? Again, you'll be smarter than 99% of your dopey liberal friends now. This is why the president, who's smarter than these idiots, is crystal clear on this. We will use them, but you have to ask. Because for a fascist and a Nazi and a monarch, the president is surprisingly compliant with another branch of government, the Supreme Court, that said, hey, there's an issue with the legality of this now. If the governor doesn't ask you or request it, we ask that you not do this until there's some finality. I thought he was a fascist. Why didn't he do it anyway? These liberal media people are morons. You're smarter than them. Play it again. Just
sounds like there is a shift in immigration enforcement here, that there's going to be a shift after Minneapolis. What should Americans expect going forward?
Well, one thing I say to my people, we do a good job. We don't get credit for it. I say they have to ask and they have to say, please. When a city is
who has to ask and who has to say, please?
Got it. Thank you. Guys, I'm telling you, we're not going to do bullshit on the show. You are going to be smarter than your liberal friends and the freaking doomers out there. President's back down. No, the president's not a fascist, folks. I disagree with the Supreme Court decision on that. I would err towards the president's discretion. However, we have a system of government where the president is not. We have three branches of government. We have a system of horizontal and vertical systems, checks and balances. That's the way the system works. The president's not a fascist. He's not a monarch. He respects the decision, and he's telling you, if you ask for help, we'll send it in. The liberal media will never tell you this shit. It's amazing how they constantly attack what they call right-wing media, and yet we're always right. I'm telling you, man, this anti-Trump brigade and the liberal media, they are just desperate for you to believe that this movement is cracking up. The MAGA Civil War, I see it everywhere. Matter of fact, the reason I brought up before that New Yorker piece, which again, it's a hit piece, obviously. And, listen, I don't usually recommend their stuff. I think it's subscription, like paywall stuff, but, read it, whatever. I'm not going to tell you, read stuff that says beautiful things about me. I'm sure there are valid criticisms about me all the time. But one of the things the piece says at the end that came out this morning, it says like Dan Bongino's return to podcasting, is the author of the piece, it's a guy, I forget his name, but he emphasizes at the end how the media keeps talking about this MAGA Civil War, but he gives a pretty realistic for a left-wing outlet, like, hey, that doesn't really sound like what's happening. Bongino got 3 million plus views on his opening episode, and I don't know what he's talking about, like what they're doing, this MAGA Civil War. The media, though, outside of that guy, who I think had a candid assessment of it, wants you to believe this is happening because the concrete sets. It's how they drown. Oh, there you go. John Alsop, February 6th. So Dan Bongino's podcast, Homecoming. Again, it's not like, hey, this guy's wonderful, but I that's fine. Freedom of the press, you're allowed to write what you want as long as you don't break the law or anything like that. The MAGA Civil War thing, folks, is bullshit. It's not real. Yes, of course there are going to be some people upset with the president or Republicans, just like there were Democrats who were upset with Obama. That's not the question. The claim there's a civil war, you better point to a plurality of people, a majority of people. 50% of people pissed off with the president or Republican Party. That's total bullshit. It's all made up. It's meant as noise to drown out the signal, to stop you from voting in the midterms, to make you believe the president sold you out and nothing's happening. It's bullshit. Okay, Dan, produce receipts. We always produce receipts. The evidence on the show is not disputable. Your opinion about it may be, but the evidence is the evidence. Here's a CNN poll. Harry Anton again. Seems to be a pretty honest broker over there on CNN. He's like, hey guys, this MAGA Civil War thing is total bullshit because it ain't showing up in the actual numbers. That's all I care about is freaking numbers. Check this out.
About the idea, essentially, not just that Republicans like or love Donald Trump, but believe he has been a good influence on the party. And here it is. Just look at this. Say Trump's had a good effect on the GOP among Republicans. When he left after term number 1, it was 71%. Just before he was running for that second term, right, it was 62%. Now it's again 71% of Republicans who say that Donald Trump has had a good effect on the Republican Party. I know that there are a lot of people out there, especially on the left, who say, oh my God, we just want to grasp that one little thing that, there's weakness in Donald Trump's grip on the GOP, weakness in MAGA's grip on the GOP. It just simply put isn't there even after this whole stuff that's been going on in Minnesota, which obviously hasn't necessarily been popular with the general electorate, but among Republicans, they liked Donald Trump, they like MAGA, they like J.D. Vance, and they believe that Donald Trump's had a good effect on the GOP as much as it has ever been.
It's as strong as it's ever been, not with independents, not with, like you said, the general electorate, but with Republicans, pretty clear, they're not going anywhere.
That's correct. Donald Trump, MAGA, J.D. Vance, they ain't going nowhere when it comes to the GOP.
And I just saw another thing, like J.D. Vance's approval rating is something like 78 or 80%. I may have been higher. Forgive me if I'm trying to downplay anything. J.D. was my guy. Rubio's approval rating's through the roof. Bobby Kennedy's approval rating through the roof. And he's not really a Republican, but he's in the cabinet. I mean, do numbers matter, or is this all bullshit, all the MAGA Civil War? The only people saying that are people who want a MAGA Civil War. And I'm telling you what I said yesterday, because some of them want to run against whoever Donald Trump endorses as the, say, linear heavyweight title holder of the MAGA movement. I've seen it. You're not going to tell me it's not happening because I know it's happening. And you'll see it more. Watch it over the next few years. You're going to be like, should have listened to those first week of shows. 89,000 in the chat. Getting ready to close in on 90 for another banger week of shows. I love you guys. You guys are absolutely fantastic. I mean it. I put out a tweet this morning. I was sitting out in the grass, bare toes, doing a little bit of grounding, catching some morning sunlight, health hacking, biohacking, and I thought, I love Jesus, man. You're amazing. They had this beautiful sunrise. In Florida, you get those oranges, a little bit of pink in there, some gold. some light blue, some not so much dark blue, but once in a while you can even see a little bit of a star or two as the sun's coming up. It's amazing to watch. Like only God could create a vista like that. And I was so grateful this morning. I put out this tweet on True Social and on X, just thanking you all for an amazing week. It was unbelievable. It was like the honor of a lifetime to serve you in the most amazing job I ever had. What a pleasure. But also to come back and be welcomed into your home as a voice. Man, I owe you guys so much. I hope you don't ever think I take you for granted, because I don't. I never will, ever. And I promise my team knows that too. You guys come first. I say it all the time. I owe you everything. You owe me nothing. That's why I don't even like asking you, hey, go follow my shows. I know I needed to do it, but I don't want to ask anything of you. You tuning in is more than enough. So there are the receipts. There is no MAGA civil war. There's an online bot civil war and a bunch of, influencers who have nefarious motives. And, there are some other folks in there who just don't think things are happening fast enough. That's fair. Fair. Listen to me. Fokker, I got you. Fair. You may not like the speed of things. That's okay. Justice, unfortunately, is very slow sometimes fortunately, because it stops miscarriages. But I get it. I hear you. I understand that. That's a valid opinion. Be easier to move faster if there weren't some things in the way sometimes, though. Be able to explain more about that going forward. Folks, a lot of you are understandably too concerned about our children. One of the things when we got in early, Cash and I prioritized was what we called VCAC, violent crimes against children. I talked earlier about threat banding, how when we got in there, the FBI, not all of it, but they had this threat banding system and this IPM system, this basically management system for personnel. And it was how they graded their employees and promoted people. And we basically threw the whole thing out. It just seemed to me, Cash couldn't stand it. It just seemed to be like box checking. And I remember asking one of these individuals, in one of the meetings we had, this is maybe week 3, 4, around there. I said, what are we doing to, prioritize a lot of these VCAT cases? And they were doing a lot of work, no question about it. So I went out and I started touring the field offices to really talk to a lot of these VCAC agents, against violent crime against children. I'll just keep calling it VCAC because it's easier. VCAC agents. And one of the things they told me, I want you to listen to this because this is it's going to sting a little bit. I said to one of them, and I started asking this question every time. I said, this has to be the hardest thing in the world to, watch these videos and these chat rooms with these people doing this in live time. I'm like, that's got to be the worst part of the job. And one of them said to me, and I got this answer a lot. He said, it is hard. You get really scarred over it. And you can't unsee these, call them horrific. Horrific there's no word for that. Anything you say is going to undersell how horrible it is. But they said, hey, deputy boss, whatever they call me, I would say Dan, it's easier. They said, it's not even the hardest part. And I said, really, what is the hardest part of this job? And they said, going home every day at 6 or 7 or 8 at night after a long, busy day. Because they're in a lot of these chat rooms. You think you're talking to someone, you're not, you're talking sometimes to someone else. They're in these chat rooms when they suspect behavior that could be putting a kid in jeopardy. And he said, when you got to log off and go home to your own family, he said, the saddest thing is, the second you turn that phone off, that there's 20 more people jumping in that phone to go after a kid. Jumping in that chat room, I should say. One of them said, I can't. It's hard for me to live with it. Folks, it was really, it was devastating. I visited a ton of field offices and I went out there and watched it up close and personal. So I was getting back to what I was saying. I was in this meeting early on and I had someone trying to explain to me how, there were some subsets of white collar crime and we had bigger squads there. And then I said, guys, White collar crime is important, and we're going to continue to focus on that. However, we got to protect these kids. So we started Operation Restoring Justice, which was a central big, what I used to call water balloon effect. I read this story in the newspaper one day in the Wall Street Journal about how illegal traffickers at the border do this water balloon thing. You know, when you squeeze a water balloon, you get the mass of the water goes here and then there. Well, a lot of these traffickers, what they do is they sense a border buildup by Border Patrol in a certain sector, and they just squeeze the water balloon and send all the illegals somewhere else. So I was reading it, I said, we can do that too. It's not complicated. Like, we can water balloon and squeeze our personnel and move them around too. So there are offices that did VCAC really well, like our Dallas field office. They just did an amazing job. Miami does a great job, not to sell anyone short. Dallas set the standard, right? So what we started doing is taking best practices and we poured them in and said, I want these shithead demons off the street. We are going to do a targeted national effort called Restoring Justice. And I only bring it up because Cash put out a tweet yesterday, hat tip to him. In 2025, the FBI and its partners delivered a record year bringing crimes against children to justice. Identified and located over 6,000 missing kids, took millions of pedophile accounts off the dark web, dismantled those 764 networks, arrested hundreds of child predators and more. With President Trump's leadership and AG Bondi and Todd Blanche, the DAG, we're not letting up. Cash also put out this video below. It's really short. You can see it playing here. But this is part of what accountability and transparency on this matter looks like. They delivered a record year. The work isn't even close to done. I told you, when these guys go home at 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night after long days, there's still these people out there. But we pushed really hard on this. Relentless justice, restoring justice, and restoring justice. 730 arrests, over 450 victims identified. Those were ops we really, really pushed hard. Human trafficker arrests up. 764 arrests were up almost 500%.
And those that label themselves 764. We are producing record numbers of arrests under that umbrella organization.
When you think you're safe in your dark web, I promise you are absolutely not safe. You have no idea what we can do.
We have found and identified 6,000 missing kids. That's up 22%. We have arrested 1,700 child predators. The credit goes to the interagency and the men and women in the FBI working together with DOJ to bring these perpetrators to justice.
So I promise you, it took about 6 months or so to get the agency reoriented towards even a greater output in that direction. But now you're seeing some of the results now. And I think going forward for the next 3 years, they're in a really good spot on a lot of these, again, horrific. And that is not even I can't even imagine a word to describe it. Image. I told you, I would tell everyone, no videos. I can't watch it. I can't. I've seen enough of it during my 12 years with the Secret Service and elsewhere and with the police department, seeing these child abuse cases. I get the point. I just want to see action. So good job on that. But the work isn't done. The work isn't done, and nobody thinks it's done. The groundwork has been laid going forward. And I meant what I said in that interview on Fox with Maria Bartiromo. The tools right now, if you're one of these demons online targeting a kid, I'm telling you, man, it's only a matter of time. When I say that knock on the door is not going to be Amazon. And thank you to the TFOs and police departments too, task force officers who also help out in this stuff. They're amazing. All right, I'm going to take a quick break, and I want to show you some more receipts that, after now having some pretty unique experiences over the past year working with the president directly, not just being a friend of his, how he's a no bullshit guy, and how I want to be like kind of for you guys, like the Trump whisperer to explain. I told you the best way, if you were a member of Trump's team, if you're doing a good job to absolutely ensure job security, is to have some left-wing media hack call for you to be fired because they don't like what you're doing. They did it with Kristi Noem. Kristi Noem, the border is down to like 0 illegal migrants entering into the country. Kristi Noem, they should be carving up Mount Rushmore again. The president told her, get it done, get it done. She got it done. And of course, the left-wing media wants her gone. Kristi Noem should be fired. I'll show you the piece coming up in a second. I promise you, I'm right about this stuff. He ain't going to listen to you morons in the media. You're not going to tell him who to fire and who not to fire. He laughs at you every day. Last break, and we'll get back to that. Nice. Man, audience, you guys just continue. Bigger audience than yesterday. Hey, seen a lot of stuff on the inside, a lot of wasteful government spending and things like that. Government programs are really not that efficient. Thankfully, we had the Doge come in and take a look at stuff. They're a lot more broken than you know. One of the most broken systems out there, we've been talking about on the show for a while, is Medicare. Most people think they're getting accurate information. Some Medicare agents might push Medicare Advantage plans because that's where the commissions are, not because they're actually best for you. That's why I'm telling you about Chapter. Chapter doesn't work for big insurance, and they don't take marching orders from Washington. They're independent, and they can walk you through every option. Original Medicare, supplements, Advantage, Part D. They tell you exactly what you gain and what you give up and what the costs really are. One woman, Jill, said her Chapter advisor showed her options that she didn't even see on Medicare's own website. Doesn't that sound like a broken system to you? Check out Chapter. If you want more clarity, here's what to do. Go to your phone, dial pound 250 on your phone, and say Medicare help. The average senior who connects with Chapter saves about $1,100 a year just by getting honest advice. It's a big savings. So if you're on Medicare or getting close, don't guess. Dial pound 250 and say Medicare help. That's pound 250 and say Medicare help. Thanks, Chapter. And our last sponsor today, Ethos. Ethos. When you bring a child into the world, your perspective changes overnight. Brought two into the world. Suddenly, you're thinking years ahead about children, school, the milestones you can't wait to see, weddings, graduations. And for me, part of loving my family meant thinking about their future, sometimes even in uncomfortable ways. Life insurance is not a fun topic, but you know I believe in being prepared. So you got to think about it. And I'm glad I found out about Ethos. I carry a lot of responsibility in my household. If something happened to me, there are real consequences. The mortgage payments, tuition, everyday bills that just don't disappear. Running the business, going to pay the guys. Thinking about that used to feel overwhelming, but taking steps to protect my family financially changed that. That's why I got life insurance. Ethos, E-T-H-O-S, makes getting life insurance fast and easy. Ethos is 100% online. You can get an Ethos quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. There's no medical exam. Just answer a few simple health questions. It's easy. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos, E-T-H-O-S now, by going to ethos.com/Bongino. In as little as 10 minutes, you can get your free quote and up to $3 million in coverage at ethos.com/Bongino. That's ethos.com/Bongino. Application times and rates may vary. Thank you, Ethos. We appreciate it. Okay, back to the show with receipts, because receipts matter. You want bullshit? Watch the liberal media. You want receipts? We bring them. Liberal media. We got to fire Kristi Noem. She's out. You better fire. No, he's not. The president doesn't give a shit about what you think. I had this conversation. I rarely talk to reporters, but one of them called the other day who I had known from a prior race. And we just had just a general conversation on background about some things. And I brought this up and she was like, hey, you're right. Like, he really doesn't give a shit what we think. He doesn't. He doesn't care. Here you go, Politico. Kristi Noem, his job is safe, says President Trump. Why would it not be safe? Why would her job not be safe? Good point. He's like, watch the media spin this and making it like an ambiguous headline. Trump says Noem's job is safe for the next 10 seconds. They'll like add some little, they're so full of shit all the time. He's not listening to you. He doesn't care what you think. He is the Lion King out there. He's going to make his own decisions about when to let people go and when to not. A lot of lessons were learned from 45 into 47. The media's not going to dictate who they hire or fire. But like I said to you before, they need this division, this fake MAGA civil war. Yeah, there are some people who have an agenda that are upset. Some people who are legitimately upset. I said that before. They just want things to move faster. Fair enough. I'm not talking about you. I mean it. I'm not talking about you. You would think I'm talking about you, but I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about people who have an agenda. They're not genuine about what they're saying. They need this MAGA civil war to tamp down enthusiasm because they are terrified that President Trump, if he gets the SAVE Act, is going to have a first year plus a few months, if he gets the SAVE Act passed, that's going to basically secure our elections. They are terrified that given his record of success and a secure election system, the left-wingers in the media are terrified they may never win an election again. That's why you're seeing the hysteria. Now, this is almost an exclusively left-winger thing. The anti-MAGA crowd kind of staying away from this stuff. I think everybody's pretty much aligned with the SAVE Act. Even a lot of Democrats are aligned with the SAVE Act, which will, voter integrity will go through the roof, election integrity through the roof. We get this passed. So, of course, asking voters to actually present an ID and codifying it into law is definitely racist, guys, because Chuck Schumer said so. Chuck Schumer wants you to believe, again, as you listen to this clip, this is Jim Crow. This is like a poll tax, man. Because why? Ask them why. You'll hear him say it here, where he kind of hints, he implicitly says that somehow Black and Hispanic people and minorities, you'll hear him imply this, are somehow incapable of figuring out how to get an ID. I cannot believe how other people in the left-wing media do not call them out. You object to the SAVE Act, fine. Stop telling us Black and Hispanic people can't figure out how to get IDs, you racist buffoons. Check this out.
A new Pew Research poll that 95% of Republicans, but also 71% of Democrats like this idea. So why do you not?
It's Jim Crow 2.0. And I called it Jim Crow 2.0, and the right wing went nuts all over the internet. That's because they know it's true. What they're trying to do here is the same thing that was done in the South for decades to prevent people of color from voting. For instance, if you change, you're a woman who got married and changed your last name, you won't be able to show ID and you'll be discriminated against. If you can't find a birth certificate or a proper ID, you'll be discriminated against. This is vicious and nasty. And I said to our Republican colleagues, it will not pass the Senate. You will not get a single Democratic vote in the Senate. We're not reviving Jim Crow all over the country. And when the American people hear what exactly it is doing and what its intent is doing, they're going to be against it as well.
How many times are we going to go down this road with these hacks and goons in the media and on the Democrat side? How is it racist to ask people to produce an ID? That's what he's implying, correct? Using a Jim Crow analogy. So white people have no problem getting an ID, finding a birth certificate, a driver's license, a non-driver's license ID. White people have no problem doing that. But Black people can't figure it out. I'm just trying to read this. I'm sorry, help me out here in the chat. Am I reading this wrong? If there is another way to explain this, can you please let me know? Please explain to me how it is that Chuck Schumer gets away with this, that this is Jim Crow 2.0, that Black people cannot figure out how to get an ID. I don't understand how this isn't racist. I promise you, the Black men and women I know can figure out how to get an ID. It's not hard. But it's the second part of that that's a new angle. Now, ladies and gentlemen, they're on the misogynistic women can't figure it out either. Listen, our business manager here, Jasmine's very smart. She happens to be a woman. Paula's the president of Bongino Inc. She's figured the company out pretty good. We're doing okay over here. Launch has been great. I'm pretty sure I work with some pretty intelligent, smart women. I know. Hey, Jasmine, are you married? Yes, she is. Did you change your name? Was it hard? Okay. Guy, you're married, right? Her name is Kim. Lovely lady. Did Kim have a difficult time? She did not. Justin is not married, so we're going to have to leave him out of this one. Josh, not married either. I'm married. Josh, you're not married, right? But Josh, just to be clear, come on out a second. Come on out. Now, I know, Josh, I don't want to dig too much into your personal life, but does this keep you up at night that when one day you find your life partner in the future to go forward, that they are not going to be able to figure out how to change their name? Absolutely not. Of course it doesn't. Josh is like, I don't really worry about this shit because I'm not going to date a stupid person. And of course they're going to figure out how to change their name. Do you realize how dumb this is? Thank you, Josh. You provided the Justin Josh commentary for the unmarried crowd and the crew. Nobody's had a hard time with this like ever in human history. They're not done with this. Ladies, why do you accept this? Yeah, we can't figure out how to change it. Really? Is this a new thing? By the way, there's provisional balloting and everything, even if there was a hiccup. Here's Jamie Raskin, another complete clown, congressman out of Maryland. Here's Jamie Raskin with the same talking point. You women, you get married out there, you're really going to have a really hard time changing your name. I mean, it's not like that's ever happened before. This is going to be the first time a woman's changed their name after getting married. They're not going to know what to do. It's not like, hey, Guy, it's not like they can actually. So, Justin, when you get married, right, and you marry, say, Mrs. Justin, and Mrs. Justin wants to figure out how to change her name, even though Mrs. Justin can just put it in like ChatGPT in 10 seconds, all she got to do is go, hey, Kim, how'd you do it? I'm on the DMV and changed my name with a marriage certificate. Wow. Holy shit. That sounds so crazy. How did you do that? Here's Jamie Raskin again with women are too dumb to figure out how to change their name on an ID. This is real. This is their talking point. Check this out.
What's wrong with the SAVE Act? What's wrong with it is that it might violate the 19th Amendment, which gives women the right to vote, because you've got to show that all of your different IDs match. So if you're a woman who's gotten married and you've changed your name to your husband's name, but so now your current name is different from your name at birth, now you've got to go ahead and document that. You need an affidavit explaining why. And why would we go to all of these the troubles in order to keep people from voting when none of the states that are actually running the elections are telling us that there's any problem?
I cannot believe they settled on this as a talking point. What kind of moron focus group said this was a good idea? Do you have that, Ami Horowitz? I love this guy. Do you still have that from years ago? All right. Well, we'll try to find it. Ami Horowitz, who does a lot of man on the street interviews, he went out and do you guys remember this? This is like for definitely Dan Bongino P1s in the Bongino army. He went out on the street, was it New York City? And he was asking a bunch of black voters, like, hey, do you know where the DMV is? They're like, yeah, man, of course. This is like how normal, functioning black American citizens who are very smart and just like everybody else know where the DMV and the computer is. That's how they respond to this Democrat stupidity. Man, you women and black people can't figure out how to get votes. You got it? All right, this is great. Thank you. This is not part of the original show, but you got to see this. This is classic. This is the difference between Democrats and normal people in the street. Check this out.
Now I'm here in East Harlem to ask black people their thoughts on what you just heard. Do you have ID normally? You carry ID around?
Yes, I have state ID.
Do you carry ID?
Yes, I do.
Do you know any black person who doesn't carry ID?
No. Everyone that I know has an ID. Why would they think we don't have ID?
That's a lie. Why would they say that?
Do you have ID?
Yes.
Because I have my ID and my friends have their ID, so like, we know what we need to carry around.
Everybody that I know have ID. Like, that's one of the things you need to walk around with New York with, an ID.
Do you know any black adult who does not have ID?
No, I don't.
Is it a weird thing to even say that?
Yes, it is.
What is this, some type of trick candy cameras?
I know, right? That's the only thing I brought with me.
Those are legit IDs. I heard a lot also that black people can't figure out how to get to the DMV.
Really?
What does that say to you?
I know it's that, on 25th Street.
Do you know where the DMV is around you?
It's on 125th Street and 3rd Avenue, I believe.
You know how to get there?
Yeah.
Would you have a problem getting
there? Where do they find these Democrat focus groups? Insane asylums? Hey, I've got a good idea. We're going to pitch the American people. Women are too dumb to change their name and black people can't find the DMV. And people go for it. The media never asks a critical question about this. I showed you those two interviews with Schumer and then Raskin. And forgive me, I didn't play the whole thing. I shouldn't talk at it. Maybe they did. I didn't see it in the clip. If they did, send it over and I'll put that. Did the media person go, are you suggesting black people can't figure out how to get an ID and women don't know how to change their name? Oh my gosh. This is what passes for common sense on the other side of the political aisle. Folks, we got a midterm coming up. This SAVE Act is essential. Call your senators, call your representatives too. Make sure that this thing gets through. It is probably the single most important piece of legislation out of the big beautiful bill, the BBB package, that we can get through in what's going to be the first 2 years before the midterms of this Trump administration. You don't have secure elections, you got nothing. You know what? Skip my tweet. I'll get to the 10, 10, and 10 stuff. This guy I follow on Twitter, Lou Bizzata. I follow a lot of folks on Twitter who I just really appreciate their support. You don't have to be some like big, huge Fox News star. I just like chatting with other folks and normal people on Twitter. Chicago Ray, Gunther, and Hunter Eagleman, like just good guys, man. They're just in it for the cause, and no bullshit, folks. My man Brendan Dilley, Miguel Fornia, like just good guys. So it's good that you don't want to fall in love with this inner circle of people who all have TV shows. They're nice guys too, but I like to talk to other folks. So someone threw this up. It was Lou. I'll just put it up at the 10, 10, and 10. Might as well. I said I already referenced it. But he said, hey, Dan, you got to remind people about the 10, 10, and 10 before the midterms. We do. Call 10 people, email 10 people, and make 10 social media posts before the midterm, at least, on how to vote, where to vote, who you support, whatever it may be. But we've got to do it. We've got to take action. We've got to take back the country. Again, this fight is never going to stop in the midterms. But they are freaked out over the SAVE Act. And they are also freaked out about the Fulton County, Georgia case that the FBI has been involved in for a long time. Again, it's not new. It's because you don't see things happening instantaneously in a slow, arduous process of justice. We are not the DOW, Department of War, which can give an order and see it executed right away. The FBI doesn't give orders. They conduct investigations. They deliver an investigative packet to a magistrate or a grand jury that issues a search warrant, an arrest warrant, or a true bill indictment. Then that arrest has to be planned. And then it's planned, and then post-arrest interviews are made, and then other suspects are gathered. The process is slow and arduous, sometimes painfully so. That's why I understand people who get frustrated. I understand that. It's fair. That's absolutely fair. You guys are home team. I get it. But as I used to tell the guys all the time when we were putting together an op, fast is smooth, smooth is fast in the justice system. The Democrats are freaking out about the case in Fulton County, Georgia, with the FBI search warrant the other day. And this is a reminder to the liberal media folks, because you're going to see this Fulton County, Georgia official in a media clip, again, melting down over this case. This was an investigative FBI packet handed off to a judge. I thought the left loved the judicial system. A judge said, I've reviewed this. I agree there is probable cause in this packet, and we are going to allow the search warrant. That's how it works. You have a complaint about the case, don't direct it to the FBI, direct it to the judge. Watch this. They're freaked out because they don't want you to see some of the stuff that's in there. Check this out.
I want to bring in Fulton County Commissioner Mo Ivory right now. She's a lawyer and a professor at the Georgia State University College of Law. Commissioner Ivory, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for all your important work. Intelligence officials, as you know, and election law experts tell CNN, the director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, had no legal authority over an FBI search in your county. But she argues she has, quote, broad statutory authority to analyze intelligence when it comes to elections. Why do you believe the DNI was in Fulton County, Georgia during this raid?
For intimidation, the same reason that President Trump has his hands in every single thing that there is without any sort of restrictions on parameters. They don't believe in separation of powers. They don't believe in following the law or the Constitution, as we're seeing.
Of course, she has no evidence to back any of those claims up. How about you just let the process play out? This is what I cannot figure out with the left-wing media and all of these officials losing their minds over this. If there's no there and you think the warrant was signed off by a judge because somebody lied about or something, which would be a violation of the law, then let the process play out and you'll be vindicated, correct? What are you so worried about? Stay tuned. A lot of things are happening. A lot of good things are happening at the same time. Sometimes some noise gets in the way, but learn to discriminate noise and signal, and we could have a pretty good midterm. get overwhelmed by the noise, there's a good possibility because one of the things I never want to hear about is red wave. Folks, forget that crap. The polling numbers are okay, but not great right now. But there is potential for a disaster if Republican enthusiasm falls off a cliff. We don't need to be like fake, phony cheerleaders for every little thing. Go everybody all the time. I'm not telling you that. I've been clear on that. But we have to have an honest assessment of where we are, and things are happening, a lot of things. I went over that whole economic segment the other day. Factory output is up. Yesterday, they were like, oh, the jobs report is so doom and gloom. Really? There's a piece at the end of the jobs report, if you actually read it, that more people are working now in America than we've had in years. Like, what are you talking about? Was it the best jobs report ever? No. Was it the worst jobs report ever? No. Was it pretty good? Yeah, it was pretty good. Speaking of jobs and the economy, I told you yesterday, I'm a big fan of Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary. So occasionally I'm going to take a mid-show comedy relief break where we play a Bessent clip because he gives zero shits about these idiots. He's up on Capitol Hill yesterday arguing with Senator Elizabeth Warren. And this comeback is, I want you to pay close attention. Of course, Elizabeth Warren pretends to know something about economics. She has no idea. Bessent's very smart in this space, brilliant guy on economics, how it works, market price clearing, supply, demand, all the big tenets, price elasticity. He knows all about this. A very, very bright guy. So Bessent's up there sparring verbally with Elizabeth Warren. And I want you to listen to the beginning of this. He has zero respect, which he shouldn't, for Elizabeth Warren, who's lied about powwow chow and everything else. And he says in the beginning, this point may be a little nuanced for you. In other words, Liz, I think this is a little over your head, but I'll explain it anyway. And then watch him refer to the Biden-Warren economy. This is great. Check this out.
Senator, it may be a bit nuanced for you, but what President Trump is referring to is the media saying that the affordability crisis was generated by this administration when it was you and President Biden who destroyed the buying power of the American people. So there is an affordability crisis, and you were front and center in it.
So let me make sure that I understand. Donald Trump is not saying that affordability, what's happening to families right now, is a hoax?
He is saying that trying to lay the blame at this administration rather than the Biden-Warren economy is a hoax.
Rather than the Biden-Warren economy. In other words, you own this too, Senator, with your big government communism. It's maybe a little nuance for you, Liz. I'm not sure you get this. You know how to do powwow chow. I'm not sure you understand economics and cash flows, trade deficits, again, price elasticities, marginal propensities to save. I'm not sure you get all that. That's just a few things. She's looking that up now on ChatGPT. You cannot trust these commies. They are communists. They love communists. One of them is a devout socialist, this guy up in New York. Now, I promise not to make this show, because I get tired of this too, like the AOC Mamdani show, because it gets annoying. But Mamdani is the new face of the Democrat Party. They love this guy for the same reason they love AOC, and Elizabeth Warren. Not because they actually know anything, but because they look like they know stuff. This guy, Mamdani, doesn't know shit. He's never led anything. Guy put up that clip yesterday. The guy's never had a real job. He worked for 3 years at some company with his mom, and he was like a rapper or something. This guy's had no experience. Now, I love the left-wing media. They wrote this hit piece about me, not to kind of turn it in my direction here. But when I took the deputy director job, I'd been a political candidate, a Republican nominee, 12-year Secret Service agent, an NYPD police officer, a consultant, a business owner, an investor. You may not like it, but you saying like I didn't have requisite experience you're full of shit. But notice about Mamdani, like, no, this guy definitely has experience. He was like a rapper or something. You see how these people play these games and the left eats it up? Suck it right up, man. This is what happens when you appoint a guy who was a rapper and worked with his mom or something as the mayor of the most important city on the globe. A city, by the way, I grew up in Queens. They can't even figure out how to pick up garbage. Isn't that the basic? Last time I checked, there's an actual department in New York. Justin, can you pull this website? I just want to be sure this exists. I may be wrong. It's called the New York City Department of Sanitation. When we grew up, they had green uniforms and white trucks. I don't know what the uniform colors are, but I'm pretty sure that's a thing. They have a New York City Department of Sanitation. I think the police commissioner right now, Jessica Tisch, who we worked with on a bunch of officers, I think she used to have that at some point. She had like the rat patrol or something like that. So I'm pretty sure that's a thing. So figuring out how to pick up garbage as a big city mayor shouldn't even be a thing. It should have just happened. But of course, because Mamdani, who was like a rapper or something, said, sure, there it is. There's an actual website. Thank you. Look at that. Keep sidewalks clear of snow and ice. I guess under Mamdani, that's not really happening. Here is a video by a guy walking around New York, hat tip to this gentleman, who's looking at these mounds of trash that look like walls surrounding like a Sparta or something like that. These big, huge walls of trash. And he's like, are you guys ever going to pick the freaking garbage up? Check this out.
I did a video about Mamdani not cleaning up the trash in New York, and people were like, oh, it's because of city snow, because of ice. Do you see this? This is because of nothing. Look, this is the Great Wall of New York City trash. This is now a national landmark, actually. You can't even see that there is a road on the opposite side of this. I'm about 6 feet tall. Look at this. This is my height. At the very least, I'll give it to Mamdani. They separated the recycles and the wall of trash. So you have a nice wall of recycles here and a beautiful wall of trash here. This is insane.
Hat tip Mikey Greenblatt via Instagram. I don't know or give a shit about this guy's politics at all. He's just showing you the truth. Here is a mound of trash in one of the greatest cities on earth that the rapper mayor who's never had a real job can't figure out how to pick up, despite the fact that he has an actual Department of Sanitation that actually does sanitation and picks up garbage. Here's another one. They do an on the street interview, just like you saw with the Ami Horowitz, but this is a different one. They grab this guy off the street. They're talking about how they want to increase taxes on businesses in New York and elsewhere. But ladies and gentlemen, when these people tell you who they are, these commie leftists, listen to them. They're not kidding. I want you to listen to this guy's response when this man on the street interviewer asks a basic question like, hey, if we tax the hell out of these citizens, even more than we are now in LA, Chicago, and New York, aren't they just going to get up and leave and take their businesses with them and the jobs? Listen very closely to the answer. When they tell you who they are, believe them. Check this out.
Say to these folks who say, well, if you tax millionaires, they're going to leave the city, and the top 1% pays 40% of the taxes in the city. So what happens if they leave? What's your response?
Well, that's what I would say. It's like we should take their business and we run it like for the city ourselves.
So if they take their business to Florida, you feel like you can keep it here?
I mean, they can't leave the building. They can't just bring their whole entire workforce to Florida, right? They can't bring all of the resources that they have to build the business here to Florida, right? That's a whole thing. And that's where we would even say we're building a real movement, right, to stop that. We'd also make it illegal for them to actually leave, right? We would fine them to hell if they're going to try to abandon their property here, right? Because clearly people do need to work, right? People do need to make a living. So
big hat tip to the Nate Friedman Show. Great clip. Fantastic question. Ladies and gentlemen, remember that Dennis Green thing? They are who we thought they were. They are who you think they are. These are people who believe your property is theirs. You want property? Get an effing job and go buy. We don't owe you shit. I can't say this enough. The world owes you nothing. The world owes you absolutely nothing. Nothing. Listen, I've been very candid and self-critical myself. I told you about on the first show that I have no regrets at all. None, because even the mistakes that were made helped me become a better person. No regrets. I wouldn't change anything. That doesn't mean there were no mistakes. And I said, one of the things, I wish I would have done different is I really wish on Fox and Friends I wouldn't have answered that question about being away from my family. I should have just shut up about it. It's fair criticism. No one cares. You can't say no one cares, but then oh, you know what? You should care about me. No one cares. Took a job, get it done. Fair, period. End of story. But you notice how the left doesn't live by any of that. They feel like the world owes them something. These people who created these businesses don't owe you shit. They owe you nothing. You want to go buy stuff and live a great life and have a nice house and a white picket fence and 10 dogs or whatever, earn it. The world owes you nothing. It is a beautiful place. I described the sunrise this morning. Thank you, Jesus, for that beautiful view. It's full of beautiful things. Volleyball games with your kids, date nights with your wife or your significant other, a good glass of wine. But the world is tough too. It's a rough and tumble place. If you can't handle it, then shut up. And that lesson goes for me and everyone else too. We're going to tax you and we're going to steal your bread. You ain't stealing shit. They're going to get out of there before. How do I know that? Because they're doing it now in LA. LA's looking at passing a billionaires tax. Oh, good. We should get those billionaires. Well, you already get the billionaires. The top 1% of taxpayers pays over 20% of the tax load, well over 20%. In California, it's even more. They're already paying a ton of taxes. So California's like, well, we should just steal their stuff and do a wealth tax. You know what a wealth tax is? Keep this up for a second on the split screen. A wealth tax is different. A wealth tax is not a tax necessarily on income. It's a tax on things you own, but not necessarily have sold. Well, what's the problem with that? Well, there's a big problem with that. If you own Bitcoin, which I think yesterday was down at 60,000 something, and you bought Bitcoin at, say, 100, folks, you've lost by simple math $40,000 on paper. You haven't sold it yet. I'm sorry, but maybe some liberals in the chat who may have a hard time with this. I buy Bitcoin at 100,000. It's down to 60. It might come back. It may go up past 100. Right now on paper, I'm down $40,000. What they want to do in California is tax you on that. How can you tax me on $60,000? I haven't made any money. Matter of fact, I lost $40,000. They don't give a shit. So what's happening? Even Google's co-founders, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, I wouldn't call them hardcore conservatives. I don't know them, but it looks like they're trying to get out too. Recently converted out of the state. So what's next for them, liberals? What's always next for them? Going back to the beginning of the show with Antifa. Why do they need their shock troops on the street? Because the liberals, the collectivists, the Mamdanis, the socialist types, they always default to force in the end. Always. We'll force you to stay. We'll steal your stuff. That's the difference between us and them. Always been the difference between us and them. And they're all fakes and phonies too. I'll go out of order, but Guy, put up the New York Post thing about Bernie Sanders. They're all fakes and phonies too. These from each according to their abilities, to each according to their means. We should all live collectively the same, equal. Everybody should be equal. They're not concerned about equality for them. Mamdani's living a damn good life. So is AOC. So is that thing, what did I see? Rashida Tlaib is worth all this money, or what was Ariana Presley? Worth all this money. They all make this money when they get up to Capitol. Nancy Pelosi. Here's Bernie Sanders spent over $550,000 in 2025 campaign funds on private flights. Filing show. Sorry, I'm not sure it was Tlaib. I should be accurate. It's one of them over there. So ice her out of it. They don't live like you do. Elizabeth Warren's probably worth a pretty little fortune. I don't fault you that. I'm a capitalist. I love making money. Making money's great. You build a business, you employ people. But don't be a fraud about it. That private jet is great. You don't have to go through TSA. But don't say millionaires and billionaires attacking all these people while you're flying around on private jets. What about the environment? I thought it spews carbon dioxide all over the atmosphere. It doesn't seem to matter to you. You're full of shit. At least we're not frauds. We make money and build businesses to hire Guy and Josh and Andy and Justin and Jasmine, and to build a business for Haley and Vince for their shows to prosper. Listen, this is a show. It's not the most important thing in the world. You know, I'm not the president. I'm not the Secretary of War. I'm not an army combatant on a battlefield. But I like what I do. I enjoy what I do. I was proud to be away for the year. It was always my goal. But I'm proud to be back. I enjoy building this business. My local community here matters. We built this building, poured a lot of money into it, hired a construction company. It's not the most important thing ever, but it's important to me. And we brought a lot of money into the community, and I'm proud of that. At least we're not freaking phonies. These guys are all frauds. They're all full of crap. Okay, I want to switch gears a little bit. I haven't talked about this much because, Guy said something to me yesterday. We were chatting on the phone about something totally different, but this show was always meant to be semi-news of the day, but more stuff we hope you care about. And some of that's going to be news of the day. And as you've seen, some of it's stuff I just care about myself that I think really matters, like the SAVE Act, which may not be in the news today, but we think it's really important. So that's how the show has always been and how it's going to continue going forward. But one of the real tragic stories that's been dominating the news is news broadcaster Savannah Guthrie. I think she's from NBC. Her mom, you can't miss the story, appears to have been kidnapped. It's a horrible story. Horrible. I haven't covered much of it early on because, again, I wanted to take it all in. And now that I'm outside, I wanted to digest the new kind of FBI role in it because we were asked to come in later and give you a better perspective than just kind of spouting off and saying, hey, there was a kidnapping and I don't have a lot to say about it right now. Fair? Like, I don't want to be first ever. But I do want to spend a couple minutes on the story and give you kind of a different perspective. But first, I just want to play a quick soundbite here. This is the Pima County Sheriff talking about one of the critical components of the case, that they did now finally get the DNA results back from the blood at the scene. And I guess it seemed fairly obvious from the start, but it does match up with Nancy Guthrie, Savannah Guthrie's mom. Check this out.
Some of that back, the results were minimal. I think you all know the blood on the porch. That was one we did. It came back to Nancy. That's what we know. But there's still more items that have been submitted. We just haven't got them back yet.
This is malfeasance and not misfeasance. That seems crystal clear. But folks, early on in the case, this is still a local case in terms of jurisdiction. Now, as I said to you, because there's a lot of confusion about this, and I learned a lot over the past year about it. I mean, it's hard not to, being in that position. But the FBI has a limited set of circumstances by which we can get involved. Whatever you may see on Netflix where like some dude with glasses shows up, aviators, and flashes an FBI, like, we're here to take over. I'll give you an example. I was not there, obviously, when the Boston bombing happened. I was a commentator at the time. I had just left the Secret Service. But there's a really good movie about the Boston bombing. I had watched it on one of these movie channels. What's it called? Patriot Day or something? Mark Wahlberg's in it. It's a great movie. I really enjoyed it. Great movie. Obviously, there's a little bit of, theatrical license taken with it. But there's one scene where it's very dramatic and they're like, it's terrorism. Like, well, FBI's taking over. Folks, I'm telling you, having lived through it for a year on, 20 or 30 of these tragedies, Coeur d'Alene, the Minnesota shootings, the Minnesota school shooting, the Detroit incident outside of Detroit, the Israel diplomats who were shot. That's not the way any of this works. Okay, we don't walk in there like gangbusters. The feds are on the scene. Everybody get out of here. It's not, that's movie bullshit. That's not the way it works. So what happened here is the FBI was asked to come in, and they're not going to say no. And the president, of course, is very interested in getting this case solved because this woman is an American citizen who had what looks to be a really horrific crime committed against her and her family. Nobody cares about the politics of the situation. That's not the way any of this works. So the FBI came in yesterday, and this is SAC, Special Agent in Charge. I learned that they call them SACs. We call them SACs in the Secret Service. They call them SACs. They don't like being called SACs. But here's Heath Janke, a guy I know very well. Here he is yesterday talking about the FBI making an arrest on some disgusting pig who tried to take advantage of this situation, demanding Bitcoin, being basically an imposter kidnapper in this case. Did you think the Bureau wasn't going to find you? I mean, are you that stupid? This is like a warning to anyone else. Don't be an asshole. Check this out.
To those imposters who are trying to take advantage and profit from this situation, we will investigate and ensure you are held accountable for your actions. We have made one arrest related to an imposter ransom demand, and a complaint will be presented to a magistrate judge later today.
Folks, I read the chat and I enjoy your comments, but somebody, I don't know who it was. Somebody, listen, fair enough. The chat room's open for a reason. But someone said, who gives a damn about this shit? Folks, well, listen, I just told you I haven't made a big part of doing wall-to-wall coverage on the show, unlike a lot of cable news networks, which, find the story interesting for their own separate reasons. But it is a story. An American citizen was kidnapped, an 84-year-old grandmother, and could be dead. And it's a story. One of the ways, we can definitely contribute, and we have, is when it comes to cell phone analysis, the Bureau is just the best in the business. And when I'm talking about analysis, I don't want to get into too many details because I don't want to give away ways to get around it either. When it comes to the BAU, their Behavioral Analysis Unit, this is all they do. They can look at the scene and kind of put together some markers of where to go and where to investigate. They have these SOMEX teams, social media exploitation teams, that can scrub social media and look for clues that other people may have missed. And these are areas where local law enforcement is amazing. They're fantastic. But they have to be jacks of all trades. They have to do highway patrol, drug arrests, everything else. What the Bureau does is they have very specific teams that can do all this stuff. Investigative genealogy work, ERT, their evidence response teams that process crime scenes, DNA, fingerprints. It's only a matter of time before they find this person. So I just figured I'd cover that, describe how it works. We don't just get to come in there and say, hey, we're taking over. That's not the way it works in the real world. I promise you. Even on cases where it's pretty clear, where there's a terrorism nexus, there's still a gradual process. You just walk in and bully people. These local police departments are real heroes. They're the ones that respond first. We're not a police force out there. So going back to the beginning of the show, because there was massive breaking news, and I have a little bit of time with you left, but I didn't have time to cover the press conference on the apprehension. Big, huge breaking news at the beginning of the show. The presser happened at about 10 to 10. Show starts at 10 a.m. every single day. Rumble.com/Bongino. Please give us a follow right there. But DOJ, huge announcement in conjunction with the FBI. There's been an arrest in a suspect, Bakush, who we have been tracking for a really long time. It's one of those cases that when we got in, Cash and I both went to the AG and the DAG. And then Janine got in later, and everybody was like, go find this guy. He'd been gone for a long time. The last administration didn't do a lot to get him. And we're like, we're going to get this guy. Here's just a small tidbit from the presser. Again, it was going on as we started. I don't want to play a whole bunch of it. I have a couple other things I want to get to, but I wanted you to see a piece of it. Check this out.
Never forget. Pam never forgot. The president never forgot. This FBI never forgot. And certainly U.S. Attorney Pirro never forgot. When an act of terrorism of this magnitude strikes at the heart of our nation, we go to work. President Trump has given us the full resources at the FBI and across the interagency to make sure we deliver justice. And Pam, you're right. Dan and I did sit down early on about this to bring justice, but you led the effort. You brought together the interagency. You said we are going to get this done because no one agency alone can do it. So we are thankful to have an Attorney General at the Department of Justice who works together with every single cabinet secretary and enforce the law. What you saw today, and I want to get, or what you're going to see today, I want to address in a minute, but I want to remind the folks out there the work of this Department of Justice. We were here just a few short months ago talking about how we were going to raise the RFJ for another violent offender on the run, Ryan Wedding. And what did we do under Attorney General's leadership? And what did we do when President Trump said, go get the worst of the worst? We captured him. We captured together, under President Trump's leadership, 6 of the FBI's most wanted fugitives in 1 calendar year. To put that in perspective, that is 2 more than the entirety of the prior administration. And you cannot do that alone at the FBI. You have to have an Attorney General and a Department of Justice willing to prosecute, willing to go to the 4 corners of the earth and make sure we deliver justice. And that's what we're doing here today. I was at the airfield with U.S. Attorney Pirro earlier this morning when we did the formal foreign transfer of custody of Bakush into U.S. custody to face prosecution.
I'm going to tell you something. Cash was a freaking beast on this case. An absolute beast. He's been on it from the day he swore in. Janine and Pam, too. They just were not letting it go. But there are, again, justice is really slow, folks. I feel like I'm going to be a bridge to the people who are frustrated with things not happening. I understand. Please. You guys are not the doomers. You want and demand results. Your spreadsheets, people like me. Good. Period. No buts, no asterisks. But the justice process is slow. A couple of hat tips on this case, too. The State Department, under Secretary Rubio's leadership, did an amazing job. Landau and others on this. And the president, folks. The president's known about this for a long time. And I promise you, he was never like, oh, that's an old case, whatever, Benghazi. Nope. When I said to you on a media hit a long time ago that we were in the office with the president, he was like, go get him, boys. This is what I was talking about. One of these things. This type of stuff. This is exactly what he would say every time. What do you need to do? Go get him. Go find him. He's not interested in bullshit. Go get him. You don't got to fill me in on the minutia of the F-talk. Go get him. They did today. Is this enough? Nope. Is this the end? Everybody should pop the champagne? Nope, it's not. I told you I wasn't going to do any of that. But it is a reflection on this president's leadership. He is not effing around, folks. I've seen it. This guy means business. Whether it's violent crime, whether it's counter-espionage, whether it's that biolab case. Why didn't you get to? I promise I'm going to get to all of this. It's been the first week. So much stuff has happened. It's just trying to pack it all into a show. It's just been a lot. We're going to get to a lot. We got guests coming up next week. We got the now hour and a half, 2-hour format. New start time. But despite all that, I cannot exit the week on a Friday without sincerely, from the bottom of my, sometimes broken heart, thank you, guys and ladies. I understand it's a lot to ask of you every morning, 10 a.m. We do the show in the morning for a reason. I thought at one point about moving up to a primetime spot. Do you remember that? But I changed my mind on it. I changed my mind. You know what? This is a bad idea. I had to do a U-turn. Because I always liked this show being in the morning. Guy and I were chatting about this yesterday, because when I first started with Joe Armacost, God rest his soul, the great Joe Armacost, what we wanted to do is give you the material for the day, and we figured you can always watch it on demand later. You want to watch it on primetime? Just go home, download the Rumble app on your smart TV, and just watch it on the TV. Had a friend of mine reach out the other day. Was like, hey, I'm watching you on the TV. He sent me a picture. But I wanted you to have the information for the day, and I got to get it out there early. That's why I moved the show a little earlier. If it costs us a few viewers because people are working on the live stream, fine, but it didn't. Matter of fact, we came back to 227,000 live streamers, which I think is that like one of our top 5 shows ever? I think it's like number 3 or something. Election night was number 1. We had like 500,000. Then we had like 375 sometime. So it's top 5 show ever. The audience today has been crazy. We're pushing over, we're about 90,000 today. But I really appreciate you all hanging in there with me. Please, I don't like to ask for too many favors, but if you could give us a follow on all of the platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We're still trending number 1 on Spotify. We've been a top 2 or 3 show all week on stream. With millions of views we racked up. It's all thanks to you, not to me. I can only watch once. And I really appreciate it. Rumble.com/Bongino. Go there today. Click that subscribe button. It is free. If you want to sign up for Rumble Premium, you can get out of those programmatic in-show ads, not the live reads, but the in-show ads. Rumble Premium, we'd love it. And then Rumble Shorts launched. We've had tremendous success. If you like to watch the show in bits, just go to rumble.com/Bongino. You'll see right on the tab, Rumble Shorts. It is a free speech TikTok right there. Go check it out. You can watch the videos. They're racking up hundreds of thousands of views. Love you guys. Appreciate it. It's been a great first week. Don't forget to watch Haley coming up at noon. Rumble.com/Haley, Hayley. And then Vince, who was amazing this morning. Had a great show. He mentioned us this morning. We always appreciate it. Rumble.com/Vince. Check them out too at 8 a.m. and then 12 noon respectively. Thank you guys so much for an amazing first week back. I so deeply appreciate it. Now we'll see you back here on Monday.
Hey there, I'm Vince.
I'm Haley Carania.
Host of Vince.
Host of Scrolling with Haley.
You can always catch my show right here.
Right here on the Bongino Report channel.
Live, 8 a.m. Eastern, weekday mornings.
Noon weekdays. And if you miss it, no worries. The show will always be right here and anywhere you find a podcast. Thanks for watching.